Well, hello, Rob. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing fine. I'm
Me
just,
too. It's
uh,
I'm at home during a normal work day, and that's unusual, which is great because I usually get home a little later. And I don't know if you've have been mowing grass again today, but I know you have a lot of that to get done there in South Georgia. So, but we're excited to be here today. We're talking about elections 2024, and Rob's in a different county than I am because he's South Georgia. I am in North Georgia, and I'm in Catoosa County. So we are blessed to have with us Miss Rebecca Kaysen from Catoosa County Elections. And I don't know your title, Rebecca. If you want to share that,
Sure.
feel free to do that because I didn't know that what your role is. But we'll talk about that as we go. But we appreciate you coming on, and we're just going to talk about the election that's coming and a little bit about that and how things kind of go in our county and across the state. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. And what is your title?
It's fancy. I mean, I'm the deputy director, so I guess second in command, which just sounds kind of scary, but but that's me. I'm the deputy director. Yeah. Um.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a great title. Could I be the deputy director here on this program, Rob, for
I
the
think
for the
we're both
podcast?
deputy directors on
It's like
here.
it's like co deputy, but we're
Yeah,
like the Barney Fife deputies or something. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not to her level, but
yeah.
no, I Rebecca's great, and just a little bit on the front end before we go in about I don't even know. I guess it's been about almost 2 years ago or whatever. I had just been really wanting to feel like just doing more as a citizen. I had thought about being a poll worker for a little bit of time, and there was that a special election, Rebecca, that we had where you needed like 50 extra poll workers, and that's kind of
Yeah.
when I came in, which was a little crazy to come in during that time. There was so much going
Yeah.
on, and I thought, well, I'll just help them out for a bit. And then, it was, you talk about being scared. It was really scary at first because there's so much to learn about it, the paperwork and how it works and everything it has to be precise. There's legalities and everybody is wonderful. And you have poll workers that have been with Catoosa County. I'm sure this is way across the country. They've been doing it for a long, long time and they're great. You get a part of a team, and I love it. It's a lot of work, but I love it. And the more you do it, the more you learn, and that's what I figured out for me. But we do have a presidential election coming, and we're going to talk about some of those things and talk about dates and early voting and a little bit about the process. So, Rebecca, how long have you been with Catoosa County Elections?
Well, it was definitely not a job that I sought out for. Um.
Okay,
My I'll try to make it a short story, but my
that's okay.
stepmom was on the election board at the time, and I was a recent high school graduate, in college, and she needed some poll workers. So this was back in 2003. Yeah, so 2004. And so, of course, she recruited me to be a poll worker, and I'm 19, and I'm like, oh, I've got to go work with all these old people. And I ended up like loving it, but that was 20 years ago. So everything was on well, the lists and stuff were on paper. Um, and then I was going to college to be a school teacher, and when I graduated college, I couldn't find a teaching job, so that was in 2008. So they just needed some help in the office. They're like, go work in the office a little bit. uh, then in the big 2008 election, so I worked as a clerk. Then I went off and worked in the school system for a little bit, and it's always like they keep reeling me back. So then I left the school system and went into healthcare, which actually was a God thing. That's where I met my husband, and when I at the time, Tanya's our Catoosa County, their tech had left, like right in the middle of a general primary and a runoff.
Oh,
And
Wow.
I had done a lot of help with the tech at that time. And so our director called me and she's like, I'm in a bind. She's like, I've got an election in a couple weeks, and I need a tech. Can I send you for training and you be the tech? And I was like, sure. So I was able to work my healthcare job and the election job because, elections are kind of high peak times and low peak times. So it worked
Yeah.
out for me. So I did that and was still able to work in healthcare. And then in 2020, the big COVID thing happened. My healthcare hours actually dropped, believe it or not.
Wow.
And so, but at that time is when we got the Dominion voting equipment, and the state was sending every county a Dominion tech, somebody that had been trained on the Dominion equipment and stuff like that. Well, our county had actually been a test county in 2019 with the Dominion voting equipment. So I already knew it really well. But Dominion said, we're sending you a tech anyway, so why don't you come down and be your own Dominion tech? So Catoosa County kind of released me temporarily for the 2020 year, and I worked in my county as the Dominion tech. And so at the end of 2020, then a full-time job opened, and here we are. So I've worked as a poll worker, from a clerk to an assistant manager to a manager to in the office to I've done it pretty much every aspect of it, but it was not something I was looking for at all.
Now, I do want to interject one thing there, Miss Rebecca.
Okay.
We don't call people old on here out of respect to Dave. We refer to them as elderly.
Well, now I'm saying that as my 19-year-old self back then. So
Yeah.
now I'm not 19 anymore. Will be my birthday is actually election day.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Happy birthday to me, right?
Working your tail feathers off.
Yeah. But no, those quote unquote old people have become some really good friends and people that I love working with. Like he said before, like you kind of fall in love with it and the people, and they become your friends. So
Good.
yeah, I've seen a lot of people come and go, and some people that are still doing it.
It's nice of you to hang out with those elderly people.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, she keeps us straight. When we get in trouble, it's like help. But you really do build a bond with them. And I know on election day, I'm an assistant manager, and the manager, he'll call me like, "You are going to be at the next election, right?" Well, sure. Yeah, I'll be there. We're a team, and it is a lot of work. And like I said, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just there's a lot to do. And what the blessed part of it is the work that they do in the office so prepares those at the precinct to get it done. It's all in order. All you have to do is follow the commands. I mean, it's all laid out. But when you first start, you don't know how to work with each other. I mean, who's going to do what? We've developed in our team. We've just developed where everybody kind of knows where they're going to be at the beginning or the end or whatever, and you don't feel like. I just felt like it's times when I first started, I didn't know. I thought I was in the way, or maybe I didn't respond quick enough. I don't know what to do. But as you do it a bunch of times, you just develop these, habits, and you just know, and you don't have to think so much. You just have to follow follow. As y'all like to say, the reader is the leader. You're following the leader. Yeah, and so y'all really set us up for success, which it makes the overall success, and so it's a lot, and I don't even know all the things in the office, so I know it's a lot. There's a lot of attention. You've got media, you've got candidates, you've got all, citizens, and there's a lot. So I know that's high pressure. It really is. And Georgia's been a high pressure state because of things we've seen in the news. And but our county, I think, it just is amazing to me. And I brag on it all the time. All the work, we don't have the problems, and just we're prepared as anybody can be. I believe as a county, it's expensive to have elections. I know that, and so it's money well spent, and so it's people like you that make it always go well and fluid, and we appreciate that. So we're headed towards this presidential election, and I wanted to ask you. I've not been through a presidential election. When I came in, we were doing different offices and things. Of course, we went through the primary. Is the percentage of eligible voters, will that generally go up during a presidential election for Catoosa County?
I could have pulled those numbers, but I feel like it's around the 70% for a presidential.
Okay.
It's around 70%, give or take, is your turnout
Okay.
of your
Which,
registered voters.
yeah,
So,
that's amazing. There's still, around 30% that
mm-hmm.
don't go,
Yeah,
which that's amazing. Their vote counts, but
yeah,
and of course it drifts way off in some elections. You might get way less than
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
like I mean, even like a presidential preference is lower than that, and or even in your general, like your general primaries, which is your local stuff, which affects you more. Those are really low too. I mean, those are in your community elections, and a lot of people don't show up for those either.
yeah,
So
that's amazing. Now we have, and we put the dates on the screen, but we do a couple of dates that are important that are coming up, and one of those, the cutoff for registering to vote, is fast approaching. We're not that far away from it, and I think that date was October 7th. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, October 7th is the last day to register to make any changes. Yes, that's the last day.
So that's through the close of business on that day. They could still come and register
Yes.
or make changes.
Yeah, and I mean, don't quote me on this. I mean, they could. It might be midnight. Like,
Okay.
because you can go on that website
Oh yeah.
you could go on the website, and as long as it's date marked the 7th, then so I would believe they could still go on the my voter page and do all that stuff up until midnight.
Okay. Now, and I was telling you before we came on the air, one of my sons he's never voted. I've tried his dad to come on, you got to vote, but he come to
Mm-hmm.
me, he said, I want to vote. He said, I need to register. And I said, you can do that online. So he went online and he went to it's easy to find. And he went to register and he come and saw me the other day. He said, Dad, I'm already registered. He didn't know how. And I think, and this is where I wanted to ask you a question. He redid his license. He moved to a different county. He's in the next county over from us in Walker. And I know you can register when you go to the DMV. They have a way to do that there? Is that correct?
Yeah, you can, and I can't because I don't do a lot on the voter registration side.
Sure.
But there's I can't remember. It's either you can opt in or opt out when you do your driver's license.
Okay.
So yeah, driver's license is where we get most everybody.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah.
See that?
So if, like he moved, he must have opted in or that to have his registration moved from Catoosa to Walker or to register in Walker.
Yeah, he had been. It's been 2 years. Well, it was June 2 years ago, so he didn't even know. So he was like, I said, "Well, you're ready to go." And
Yeah.
so, I've never done it that way because I registered when I was. Oh my goodness, this goes way back. I mean, I was 18 years old. I remember going down to the county office and getting my card and all that, and registering. So it's there's so many options and a way you can do that today. Robert, did you have a question on that?
Yeah, I was having a question. That was back right after the revolution. So how did you
It was way back.
back then?
I had to lay down my flintlock before I went in. So, but
What is
yeah,
the last time when is the deadline coming up to request an absentee voter ballot?
The last day to request an absentee by mail ballot is somewhere. I think it's October. Yeah, it's Friday, October the 25th.
Oh,
So, but you don't want to wait until that long.
no.
But yeah, that's the absolute last day to request an absentee by mail ballot.
Okay.
and so that will be mailed out to them, correct? Or they can come in and
Yes.
pick it up.
Well, no.
Oh, they
So,
can't.
there's two parts to voting by mail. There's the application process, and then there's the ballot process. So you can call us, and you can request an absentee by mail application, and we
Okay.
can mail you the application, and you can mail it back to us, or you can drop it off, or whatever. And then we have to verify that everything on the application is correct. the identifying information is your driver's license number and your birthday. Because, I could forge your signature, but more than likely I don't know your driver's license number, right?
Right.
Right.
So that's the identification process. I mean, we still, still do signature match and everything like that, but that's not the identifying information for that person.
Okay.
So once the everything is good on the application, then we would mail the ballot out to you. And all the applications we have up until this point right now, we're going to start mailing those out October 7th.
Okay.
So we have to mail, by law, we have to mail those ballots out. You can't come pick up a mail ballot.
Okay.
So we have to mail it to you, and then you can mail it back, or you can bring it back into the office or drop it off. But we have to mail it to you by law.
That's good information. We have a listener who, due to disability, has done this for, I think he said, the last 5 years. And he likes to, I think he just stays very involved in making sure that everything's good way before he actually requests to make sure. And I think if I remember right, because I've never done one, but it's kind of the envelope within an envelope that comes back, like they fill that.
Yes.
I think that's the way it is.
So in his case, you said he's disabled, right?
He is.
You said. So for a disabled person or an elderly person, they can opt in every year to automatically receive a ballot for every election in that election cycle. So more than likely, he did his application back in February or something for that presidential preference in March. And because he's disabled, he opted in to get the presidential preference primary, the general primary, a runoff, the general election, and then if there's a runoff in December, he'll automatically get all of those ballots sent to him throughout the year. And he has to do that every year. So next year, if there's a bunch of elections, he'll have to do a new application. So yeah,
and
but
I think that's what he was saying, and I didn't know that part of it when he said that. I think that he did say that.
Yeah. So, and actually, my husband and I both vote by mail. We did it back in 2020. I just wanted to try it, and I actually really, really like it.
Okay.
Because I mean, yeah, I work at the elections office, but that doesn't mean that I know everything about every candidate. I still want to have to do my research. So when I get my ballot at home, I may know the people that I'm going to vote for sure. But if there's a few that I'm like, I don't know who this person is, it gives me time to kind of go and do my research and work kind of like a take a test at home type thing.
Right.
Like you can work on it as you can and then turn it in on a certain day. Where when you come and vote in person, you got to know all your test answers when you come and vote. So, and I like to be able to tell people, that doubt that process. Hey, I vote by mail, and this, and why I like it, and believe it or not, I feel like I don't have time to vote. Working here, I feel like I do not have time to vote, or I forget. So,
I understand.
That's why I do enjoy voting by mail.
That's a perfect segue into my next question is, and you may not know this, but I love, because of what you just said, what I do, because I don't do absentee, I love to print off the sample ballot. And also me and my wife sit down and we work together. And she uses that because you're allowed to bring that in and you can look at that. And of course they have them on the wall at the precinct that you go to, but this way she can print it out and we go through that. And my question is, do you know when they load that, like for this election cycle, when that will load?
I actually looked on there this morning to see if it was on there, and it gave me a different pop-up. Let me check. I'm gonna check it when I'm talking to you. It gave me a different pop-up window than normal, so I'm like, it looks like it is in the process of being on there, but I don't know what. But I'm pulling it up right now while I'm talking to you. But yeah, that's what me and my husband do too, because you can't talk in person, which you've worked elections and the husband and wife want to stand beside each other, in the booth, and they try to talk to each other, and you can't. It's against the law. You can't be talking to people while you're in the booth, but you can talk and discuss while you're at home. So we do the same thing. We we sit there and talk. So, it's given me some kind of error on this, so I don't know if it's fully loaded the sample ballots or not. I need to ask the
Okay.
question, but
Well,
it
maybe
should
they're
be.
fixing to do that.
Yeah, it should be in the next week or so. So
Okay.
I don't know.
So does the early voting start? I like to do the early voting. I can't drive. I have issues with that, uh, medical issues. And so
Mhm,
my wife has to take off from work so we can go vote usually.
mhm.
And we generally will go during lunchtime or something like that, try to get there early. When does the early voting start?
Early voting for Georgia starts Tuesday, October the 15th, and goes through November the 1st. Now, they would start on October 14th, that Monday, but it's Columbus Day. It's a state holiday. So,
Okay.
unfortunately, and we had been advertising that we were going to be open that Monday, not knowing that
Oh,
it was a
wow.
state, because our office is not closed on Columbus Day, but
Right.
because it's a state holiday, we can't we can't vote that day. So,
Well, that's great
No.
info to know. I didn't realize
so
that either. And that's less than a month away. So
right.
things are going to start happening really, really quickly for that. And I know that you have some Saturday early voting in the state and also late into the evening a couple of days during that as
Yeah.
well. Is that correct?
Yes, so we have required Saturday voting. Those are required by the state.
Okay.
Sundays are optional to the county. So the county can choose whether or not they want to be open on Sundays. And then the county can also choose to do the extended hours if they want to. So
Okay.
our county does choose normally a one Thursday to do extended hours, but because of the short because we're missing a day that Monday, our election board decided to do two Thursdays. We're open till 7.
Okay. I
So,
didn't know
but
that either.
that's a
So,
county, yeah, that's a county decision.
Well,
okay.
that's good. You know,
Well,
it seems like y'all are bending over backwards so people can get out there and vote. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't see what else y'all could do to make it any more convenient or easy.
yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
somebody they asked if we could be open on Sundays, but we got to have a break too.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got to have a day to rest, and because it's long days, and lots of times you don't get a lunch break, or you didn't realize you didn't eat lunch, or you need time with your family. So we've got to have that break. But there are some counties that do that Sunday voting.
Yeah, I imagine. I don't know. There's a fairly strong Seventh Day Advent community up there that
Mhm.
does not believe in doing any business on Saturday as their Sabbath,
Mhm.
and the Sunday voting would probably help them.
Mhm.
But they also have the extended hours on
Right.
Thursday,
Right.
so yeah, that
Yeah.
would be
I'm not completely hard. I understand because, like I said, I work healthcare. My husband's a nurse. Like, I understand that there are truck drivers. They work long days and long
yeah,
hours. And so any opportunity to come in is great. But like you said, there are multiple ways. They can
yeah.
vote by mail,
Yeah.
um, the extended days and the Saturdays. So,
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of other things here that pop in my mind, and there was a lot of, and I don't want to deal with controversy, but some people made it controversial, and I understand. But do we still have drop boxes in the county? Is that something that's still there?
So the drop boxes, we'd never done drop boxes before until COVID.
Okay,
That's why the drop boxes came about, because we were having to accommodate the pandemic. So that's when the drop boxes became introduced, and then people decided they didn't like those. But what? How else are you going to do it? That's my thought. How else would have you, during a pandemic, brought, if you didn't want to put it in the mail, how would have you brought it in? But the law has changed that we can have. I can't remember exactly what the law is, but it has how many you can have. But for our county, we have one drop box. It's located inside our office, which it has to be located inside a building, open and monitored during early voting hours only.
okay,
So it
okay.
has to be monitored. I'm pretty sure that it has to have a camera on it. Our director knows all those rules, but it has
Sure.
to be
Yeah.
monitored And ours is in our office, and there has to be somebody in that office at all times with that drop box.
And I
Yeah.
knew there had been some changes. I just didn't remember if we had any. If we did, I do remember that now that there was one inside. I didn't know if we had any others.
Yeah.
So that's great information as well, because that's definitely been in the news.
There may be more depending on the size of the county. If it's a large population, they might be able to have two. Like in our county, we have two early voting sites. Like if we had a huge population, they might let us have one at that second early voting site. I can't remember, but I think because we fall under that uh, registered voter number, we only are required to have one. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
So there's
Let's.
at least one, though.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
one, but it's in our office, and it's like, you can either hand it to the girl working in the window or put it in the drop box. It's the same people processing. It's the same hands are going to be working it, whether you hand
Yeah.
it to them in the window or put it in the drop box.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And I appreciate all the time you've given us. Just a few more. You're good for a few more minutes, or you're good.
yeah. I mean, however long you need.
Well, thank you. Because I just
Yeah.
want to take a moment and go through the process of whether it's early voting or election day, because I think there's still people that most people I think are probably used to it by now with the electronics and everything, but just this might be a help to somebody before they come in, maybe a first time voter even. So when you come to the precinct, whether it's early voting and this is also confusing, I know it is, because when you early vote, you go to those two locations for our county. There may be maybe three in different counties if they're bigger, spread out. But for our county, it's two. But that's not where you would go on election day unless that was actually your precinct. And people get confused about that. They'll show up. They'll show up at different times and they're in the wrong place. So early voting, there's two locations for our county. You have to check your county to see where those locations would be. But on election day, you've got to go to your precinct.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is voter rolls. So the early voting sites, we don't use internet for any of the like the ballot marking devices or the scanners. Despite what people think, they're not connected to internet. There's no way that anybody can get into those systems. Now, for early voting, we used to check in on a computer. So those were connected to internet, but that was to give you voter credit in real time. So like we would use our election system to say, David Cordell came in right now and he's going to vote, and I'm going to make him a ballot card. And then that was the only thing that was connected to internet, so that you couldn't go to our second early voting site and try to vote again, because we want to give you credit automatically. That way you can't try to come vote twice.
Right.
Now, election day, we don't have internet. We don't have, at our precincts, we don't. So you can't, that was the reason election day, now I can't remember the original, but it was for voter rolls. We don't have internet to give you real-time credit on election day. So we can only kind of narrow it down to who lives in that precinct polling location. So, the Lakeview polling location is this list of 2,500 voters.
Okay.
And we want to be able to keep our scanners and our ballots to that precinct. So that scanner can't, on election day, can't read a ballot from another precinct. It would kick it out. It'd be like, I don't know what this is. It would kick it out. But
Okay.
the early voting sites will accept all ballots from all precincts. Just the election days will not. And that's another for reporting purposes.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I didn't know
I don't know
that.
if that answers your question.
No, that's good. That's excellent information. So they come either they're early voting, they come to the early voting sites, or if it's election day, they come to their precinct. Another big thing, and I think most people understand this, but just the craziness of the times. You can't wear you can't wear your candidate's clothing into the precinct. You can't wear hats and shirts and stuff like
Right.
that. It's not allowed within, I think it's 150 feet of the door. And so even just the elections I've done, I think there's been twice that I've had to tell people that you got to take that off. You can't.
Yeah.
One person forgot, and I believe that they did forget. The other one didn't like it, but so that's the rules. You have to do that. So
It's kind
uh,
of one sided. Some people are like, they feel like this is where they should be able to promote it. But on the other side, we've had people be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that I wasn't supposed to," and they will, they'll change or cover up or whatever.
yeah, it's their favorite hat. So
Right? Yeah, I always wear
whatever.
this hat. Yeah.
Yeah, so they forget it's on their head actually, so they can't do that. They come in, they go to see someone who will check their information. They're going to put the voter access card into the iPad, and that will load that ballot on that card. That's correct.
Yeah, so you would come in, you give your photo ID. That's the first thing we got to look at is your voter ID or your photo ID, government issued
Yes,
photo ID. So driver's license, passport, military ID, various other things. And then we would check you in on what is called a poll pad, which is an electronic poll book. We used to use back when I was working with the old people, we used paper poll books, and we had to search like in 20 different books because there was so many people.
I
So now
remember
we have,
that.
yeah. So now we have
We
the
know you do.
electronic poll book. It's the application, so they sign it, they sign in the oath, and then it makes a voter card. That card does not say that this is David Cordell and he's voting on this ballot. It's just creating a voter card for your precinct and your combo.
Okay.
It doesn't care whose name is connected to it. That's about
Okay.
what people think. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I don't, I mean, you are a poll worker, so so like if we say the voter card's not working, and we tell you to use that ballot activation code, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's a card for your precinct and the combo that you live in. Um,
Right.
it's not connected to you or to me.
Correct. Yeah. So they get their card and they go to a BMD, ballot marking device, insert it in, and it will pull up the
The
ballot.
ballot. Yep. Yep. It's
And they,
basically a fancy pencil. That ballot marking device is what we say. It's a fancy pencil. Um,
okay.
you tap the name of the people you want to vote for. If you don't want to vote in anything, you don't have to vote for them. You can vote a blank ballot if you want to. That's your right and your choice. But yeah, you select the names you want. It gives you an opportunity to review those people on a screen. If it's correct, you hit print. You hit print again. It prints that ballot, and then the ballot is printed, and you are able to review everybody's name on that printed ballot is listed under the QR code, which a lot of people hate. I understand, I get it, but their names are listed underneath that QR code.
Yes.
So you're able to verify that those are who you want, and if it's correct, then you go put it in the scanner. And the scanner is what's tabulating the results. The ballot marking device does not. It's just keeping track of how many ballots were printed.
Okay.
Okay.
It doesn't
Yeah.
keep a record of results on those ballot marking devices.
Yeah. Then they go to the scanner. They real quick before we get to that part, and you mentioned it, and I don't know where it stands, and you may or may not know. I know there was a lot of talk in the state about removing the QR code. Is that something
I
that may happen or
Yeah, I
no?
think they are talking about it, and don't quote me on this. I think it might be next year
Okay.
where they do that, but I don't
Okay.
know the process in that.
I don't either. I just know that I heard some senators talking about it, and
Yeah.
apparently, a lot of people said we just don't want to have that, and so that has been talked about. But for this election, that's great info too. There will be a QR code on when that ballot prints. It'll be on
Yeah.
there. Okay, so that's good to know. So they take it to the scanner sometimes, and sometimes, and they don't understand. Sometimes they try to hand it to us. We can't take your ballot from you. You enter it into, you enter it into the device, the scanner, and then it's tabulating, and we show them that the number goes up, and you voted. I mean,
You
that's
voted.
it's good.
Yep. Yep.
You're voted, and
Yep.
and again, I don't want to go through every little process. We keep you here all day if we talk, because there's all sorts of provisions in case of bad weather, we lose electricity, or even fire, whatever the case may be. There's emergency procedures that can go into effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if it was you or one of the other ladies, and I'll never forget this. There's a lot of pressure when you're opening a precinct because you got to get that done on time. And I remember y'all telling us we don't want to have to call a judge and get extended hours because we didn't get a
Right.
precinct open on time. And I've never forgotten that. And I don't want to be the one to go, well, David Cordell, he was, he
Mm-hmm.
messed up,
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. We have to open on time and we have to close on time.
Yeah.
You know?
If you open late, then you have this court order. You get a court order from a judge that you get extended hours past 7 o'clock, and then those ballots after 7 o'clock he may say you have to stay open until 9 o'clock p.m. So from
Yeah.
7 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m., you would be doing provisional ballots.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a whole nother process.
Yeah, that's
So,
a whole nother. Yeah, that's another. Yeah. So you don't
yeah,
want to. Yeah, you don't want
no.
to be late.
One of the things that and then I just want to wrap up here with some things back when everything's brought in, but and just from being because when people unless they are a poll worker they don't see some of this. Once we lock the doors and officially polls are closed, and then we yell that out the door: polls open, polls closed, all that. There's this high. I mean, it's high security where it is the transfer of things from the precinct that are picked up. There's even some things are picked up. Now we as managers bring a lot of the equipment and paperwork and things, but there's certain things that are picked up, and those are under police escort. I mean, there's a lot of security that is involved with this at the close of a precinct, and it's a lot of people just don't see that because they're already gone. They've went home. They're waiting for election results. Uh, but that's another level of security that's occurred as they come around. I think there's three people. I don't know if that's required, but I've always seen three: police officer, and there's an official from the election board, and someone else usually. And they'll come and there's a transfer document, and the manager handles that. It's not something I'm usually just assisting, but that the manager signs. They transfer that and bring it back to the election headquarters, which for
Yeah.
us is
So we
Ringo.
start. There are other counties that do that. Now there is. Yeah, there's a chain of custody and all that stuff, but we also have like rules in place as far as time to have results in. Well, you know how much paperwork is involved in closing down
Yes.
a precinct. So if you're doing all that paperwork, and imagine a really large county, a large precinct, like you may not have it in at a certain time. So that's why we want to give that manager and assistant managers the opportunity to complete their paperwork without the pressure of trying to hurry and get back to our county so we can upload those memory cards. That's why we implemented that. We call it kind of the election night runners. But yes,
Okay.
we have a police officer, one of our board members, and another poll worker, a group of three that go around and they collect the memory cards from precincts. And then that way we can go ahead on our side and have all those results uploaded. And then you at the precinct can complete your paperwork.
Okay.
And again, it's no pressure. Then you don't have the pressure of like, we got to hurry and get back because they got to have results in by such time. Like, we've got them. So you take your time and finish what you've got to do.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, that's
that's
great
why
because there is a lot. There's a
yeah,
lot to that.
Yeah.
So check sheets that are done and paperwork, triple signatures on most things, and you just got to have all your ducks in a row. We've gotten better at it. The first time, I know I was a deer in the headlights, and we, you know, you're like, where's that format? Well, I just had it. It's over here.
Mm-hmm.
You moved it. You can easily panic because you do feel pressure of that. So that's great that they do that. And we try to get that done really quick to get that ready for that transfer because, we don't know exactly what time they're coming and coming to pick that up, but we want to be ready for that. So we've never had a problem with it at our precinct, but and there's probably not any problem anywhere, but it's just something that you got to get done, done with that. But it's amazing. I wish every voter could have an opportunity to see all of the coordination, all of the rules, all of the checks and balances, the security. It's really amazing to see all parts of it. And then I would just say you're going back, Rob. You just if you could only see this, that I've gotten used to it now. The first time we went back to election headquarters, we're unloading all this equipment, all this paperwork, and you go in, and for me, the first time it just seemed like organized chaos. It was so much activity going on. I just was I didn't even I was amazed. I was like I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know what's going on. There's just so many people, and I imagine for you guys that's a little it can be chaotic. All these
Yeah,
precincts
yeah,
showing up, and you got to check
yeah.
all this stuff in.
Yeah, and then you've got the news here, and you've got the
Oh,
candidates here and their posses, and you've got the, what we call the stringers here, which is from like Associated Press and certain things they need results. So yeah, there is a lot of moving parts. Um, but our for us, for me, like our managers are priority because you are the ones that got the stuff. You've
yeah.
got you've got everything that we need, and everybody else is going to get what they need eventually. You know, but yeah, it is organized chaos. I think that's a great way to describe it.
Now,
And
I have another question. I know on election night they go back and they have to tabulate the early votes and they have to
Yeah,
tabulate the mail-in votes.
yes,
How is that handled?
yeah.
You
So
know,
that was a note I actually wrote down because I wanted to explain that because a lot of people assume or think they know that process and they don't. So the early, let's just talk about early voting machines first of all. So early voting machines, they're open and closed every day during early voting for the 17 days or 16 days. You open that first day, you should have zero as your count. You close
right?
that day, you've had 1,000 voters. So the next day you come in and you open, your number should be 1,000, right? And you keep those totals going every day. So on the last day of early voting, you've had, let's just say, 20,000 voters for early voting. So we take all that equipment down at our early voting site. We take it all down. We bring it back to our office. We basically sequester those scanners, keep them in a safe spot until election night at 7 p.m. So when David and his team at Lakeview is closing down their scanner at 7 o'clock, we have an absentee panel that's closing down those early voting machines at 7 o'clock. So because
okay,
I actually had a phone call this morning, this lady was like, "But I'm going to wait till election day to vote because they know the results before then." No, we don't. We don't. We
no,
by law we cannot tabulate or run tapes on those early voting machines. If we do, we have to sequester that team. But we
right.
can't upload any results or give any results before 7 o'clock. So the brand new machines on election day and advanced machines are put away and put in safe keeping until that Tuesday at 7.
I didn't
Um,
know that part.
yeah,
I did not
yeah,
because I don't work at the office. I didn't know that part.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
interesting.
So now absentee by mail, um, what we do is it's actually really an interesting process if you ever have an opportunity to kind of view that process. Um, so when you vote by mail, you've got your ballot, you've got an inner envelope, which he was talking about earlier, like there's different envelopes. There's a white envelope that says unofficial or official election ballot or absentee ballot. I can't remember exactly what it says. It has no identifying information on it. And then you have an outer envelope that's yellow. It's bright yellow, and it does have identifying information because we have to know who to mail the ballot to or who it came from. We have to check in, make sure they signed it, they put all their information on it. So I vote by mail, so I put my ballot inside the white envelope, which has no identifying information, and then that envelope goes inside the yellow envelope that does have identifying information. So when our absentee panel comes in, we can start opening those ballots. Um, we don't, and we can process them, but we don't tabulate them. So we use a team of four or more. But I kind of describe it as like a game, like a but like if the three of us were opening ballots, we would separate. Let's say we had 150 ballots. Give me 50, and each of you 50. We count out. We have 50. Okay. our number's 150, right? So we start opening those ballots and we separate the yellow envelope from the white envelope. Well, how many white envelopes do you have now? Well, I have 50, you have 50, and you have 50. So the way our county does it is then we don't open the same stack every time. So I'd pass my stack off to David, and then he'd pass his stack off to, I'm sorry, Robert, and Robert would pass his stack off to me. Then that way you can't trace that yellow envelope with the identifying information to the ballot.
That is
So
good.
then, round 2, then we open the white envelope and separate the ballot from the white envelope. Okay. So then I should have 50 ballots in my hand. David should have 50, and you should have 50.
Right.
And then that's how we actually do a fourth count. You're only required to do 3, but we actually do a fourth count, because we go ahead and put them in folders for when we do scan them in. That way they're in a group of. We keep ours in a group of 25, but we want that extra count. So in our county we do 4 counts. But that's kind of how it's kind of like a game, like I say. Like okay, now open them. All right, did everybody get the magic number? Yeah, we got it. Okay, now swap your stats. Okay, everybody get the magic number. Now swap your stats. So that way you can't trace it back to anything. We do when we open. You'd be surprised the types of things we get in those ballots. Coffee stains, tape. They're torn, cut. People will write notes. They'll write names. They'll, I hate this person. I do not want to vote for this. But we don't want anything identifying on those ballots. So, I call them kind of the bad eggs. If there's a coffee stain on it, and I don't think it's going to go through the scanner, then we need to duplicate that ballot and put it on a fresh ballot and make sure that it scans.
No.
So we have a vote review panel, which is 1 Democrat and 1 Republican. And then we have a duplication panel. So the vote review panel tells the duplication panel the voter intent. This person voted for candidate A. So the duplication panel will be the one to duplicate on that good egg ballot how it's supposed to be marked. Now, most of the time it's obvious, like who they voted for, but sometimes they'll mark 2 names, or they'll, sometimes it is questionable, and you need that vote review panel from both parties to determine what voter intent is.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing information. I didn't know a lot of that, because I don't.
We keep a lot.
Yeah,
we keep those. We keep the bad egg and the good egg together, and we have to write on it. This was the original, and this is the duplicate. And so when we go in to scan it, we separate them. We scan the good ones in, and then we put them back. We marry them back together, so that if there was any question, we could say, well, this was the bad and this was the good.
You say, and it would probably be me leaving the coffee ring on the ballot. And you're like, well, Robert had a coffee ring over this part, and we couldn't really make it out.
Yeah.
So we duplicated it. Here's the way it should be without the coffee ring. And this is the original with the coffee ring. And you can see why we did this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's a very interesting process, and it's probably become one of my favorite things that we do, that I'm involved, in watching. It's just fun. It's just fun.
I bet you some people up there got flat heads, because I bet you that job gets boring. And if someone goes to dance out their ballots, they go, oh, I ain't got but 49. Count again.
Now, it's happened before where we've had somebody put 2 ballots in. We think it was like a husband and wife, Well, here, just, it'd be like me putting my husband's ballot in with my ballot.
Yeah.
So you've had, your number is off. So you have to notate that discrepancy, or somebody doesn't put a ballot in there, or, there's various things.
They can make that happen.
I remember once, and I don't do a lot of early voting. I do a little bit, so I'm in practice and everything. But I remember, I think I must have worked the last day of early voting. And on that night, they came in and they pulled the ballots, and we counted them out of the scanner. And I'll never forget the election. He's been there, I'm sure, forever. and they come in. There's a team of them. They come in. We're pulling these out. You put them in stacks of 25, and we're all getting these all counted up, and we were coming up a number off of what we should have, one number off, and we counted like once. I was like, okay, let's count again. We counted again, one number off. I'll never forget the gentleman's name. He's like, come on, guys, we're better than this. I mean, come on. And we went a third time, and I happened to look over, and somebody that was counting, I think they were getting nervous. They were getting in a hurry, and I noticed that I could just tell. You can kind of tell if you're looking. I could tell that they had about two ballots stuck together. And then when they handed me their 25, I just said, hey, I'm going to recount that just for real quick while they're counting these other ones. And I found it. And then that fixed it. But it was getting a little frustrating because you're like one off. But you got to have it exact. That's the way it's got to be. So, yeah.
Yeah. And in that process, sometimes you can get too many chiefs, or too many cooks.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can have too many people helping. And yes, yeah.
Now
I've snapped a few times when I've counted, and I apologize the next day. I'm sorry for what I said when we count ballots this year.
I do have one more question, and I know David probably have another question or two, but I've got one more. Okay, one thing I don't understand is we have all year to send out the mail-in ballots.
And, no, you don't have all year.
Well, you could send them. I mean, y'all have a set time when y'all send them, but they should be sent out in a time to where they should all be in by election day. Is that correct?
Right. So, yeah, that's why we have that deadline of October 25th to request one, because it gives us a week to get it to you. You fill it out and you get it back to us, because we have to have it in our office by election night at 7:00 p.m. So
now, is that standardized throughout the states, or it is?
Yeah. Now, they're military, like your military, they're different. They have until that Friday or the Monday before, or Monday after, depending on the holiday. But they get a little extra care.
And that, I can understand that. I was in the Navy, and sometimes it's a little hard to get stuff off a ship.
Yeah.
But but as a rule, if that's kind of standardized, it seems like a lot of states tend to run over or give extended days beyond the election date for those votes, for those letters to come in.
I don't know about other states. I don't know about other states.
Okay.
I don't know.
It seems like I remember Arizona being one of them.
And they could be some rules in other states that, there are some differences across the United States. I mean, definitely. I don't have a last question. I guess a comment, and Rebecca wants to say anything about it. It's nothing bad. I just, election day is a long day. It starts really early for all of the election workers. I mean, you're getting an early start to get the precinct open, and those workers are working well past the closing of the precinct, and you're tired. But it's a good kind of tired. And one of my favorite things is after I know that we've had this great day at the precinct. My manager always wants me to go with him, and the other assistant will stay behind and get the precinct took care of. We go down, we get everything checked in. I'm a little bit nervous till we got out of that, because we're getting better at it. We're not so nervous now, but that first time I think we missed one thing, and we had to go back and get something. That happens. But you get everything turned in. You've got it. And there's just this satisfaction of going home. And I go home and watch election results just like anybody else, and I'll stay up kind of late that night. I'm bone tired. The next day I'm tired. I go to work and I'm really tired, but it's a good kind of tired. What is it like for you as working there? What is that like for you? Because I know it's a long day, but what's that like for you? Is it what do you feel, or how do you feel about it after it's over?
I would agree. Yeah, it's like you can't sleep the night before because you're afraid you're gonna oversleep.
That's right.
So you're already kind of sleep deprived. And if your precinct's anything like ours, like everybody brings food, so I gotta get up an extra 30 minutes early to get my food ready to bring to the precinct. But then it's a long day. It's now if I have done my job, if we at the election office have done our job, then I've always said we should be so bored on election day. Like because we shouldn't be getting any phone calls from you guys saying we don't have this, this is
Right.
not working, or But I've always said election day should be the most boring day for us.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not the case. But but yeah,
Huh.
then when that 7 o'clock hits, that's kind of game time. Like we have to upload our results. We're checking you guys in. And then even after when you guys go home, we still have, so what we do as far as uploading results is we upload results into our, it's called a EMS or election management system computer. It's not connected to the internet. We upload all those memory cards to that computer. We print the results. We make sure that our results printed match the tapes that you printed at your precinct. Make
Right.
sure all that's good. We scan or email that report to the state. I upload the results to the election night. It used to be called election night reporting. It's something else now, but and then the state will verify on their end that the report we mailed to them or emailed to them or scanned to them matches the results I uploaded. So we still can't go home until the state says everything looks good.
Oh, okay.
But believe it or not, it's actually these really big elections. We actually get to go home like at a reasonable 10:30. There was like a
Yeah.
runoff one time. It was like after midnight. We're like, we're
Oh, wow.
waiting. But then once
Wow.
we get to go home, it's hard to kind of decompress because you've been on this high all day. So it is still hard to kind of settle. When I first started and I was still living at home at the time, I was in college. I'd get home and my dad would be like, "Who won?" I'd be like, "Well, so and so won, and this was the results." And now I've been doing it so long, I don't care who wins. I mean, I do personally, but in
Yeah.
that moment, I don't care. Our numbers match, everything worked. That's all I care about. So I go home. Who won? I have no idea. I have no idea
Amen.
who won. I just know that it was an easy day and everything turned out just fine. And
That's
then
Right.
the
awesome.
next day I'll look at the results. But yeah, but then we have to be back here at 8 o'clock the next day because you're there's winners and losers in election, and whoever lost is probably going to come in here and want some open records requests or want voter rolls or
Yeah.
result. Just there's all kinds of things that we have to do the next day, and we can't
Yeah.
just come in at 12, or take the day off. Like it's still going on even after it's over. So
Sure.
yeah, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you so very much. You've given us a
Yeah.
lot of time, and Robert, that's great information. I mean, I've learned,
It
and I'm
is.
involved, and I learned a lot in this, and I appreciate that very much. That's all I have, Robert. You got anything else? We need to let her
Well,
get back to her job.
I'm gonna show my gratitude, Miss Rebecca, Miss Kaysen. I'm gonna talk to Mr. Kaysen for just a minute. All right,
Okay.
you got to get up that morning on election day and fix her lunch. It's not going
Oh,
to take
that's
you.
okay.
Get up and fix her lunch, and so she does not have to get up early. She's got a long day. I got you. I got your back.
Well, see, here's the thing. Like I said, we eat election day like you would, like we used to call it, like a um a Baptist homecoming.
Yes.
So all the poll workers at certain various precincts, what do you bring? I'm gonna bring the ham. Well, I'm gonna bring the broccoli casserole. Well, I'm gonna bring
Yeah.
this. So I
Oh,
would rather him just stay in the bed and
just
then
stay out of
let
your
me
way.
just eat what all these poll workers. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay. Sorry,
That
Mr.
makes
Case.
sense.
Go to bed and stay out of her
yeah,
way. You know your place.
By
yeah,
the way, by the
yeah,
by the way, Robert, every precinct knows who are the great cooks, and they're so
Uh,
yeah,
looking forward
yeah.
to sweets or foods or whatever it is, and they're legendary. I learned this kind of along
Hmm.
the way. There are legendary folks that are involved with this, and they can't show up without that stuff because everybody's looking forward to it. So once you
Yep.
start it, you've got to keep doing it every time
Yeah.
there's an election.
well,
Yeah,
amen
yeah.
to
I
that.
used
I'm
to,
glad y'all
yeah, I
do
used
that.
to make this breakfast casserole, and the girls were like, "You've got to make the breakfast casserole." Well, I can't do it anymore because we try to have one person on like each side of the county. So a lot of times I'm like, I can't do it because I can't make sure that it's hot if I'm going to be in the Lakeview area. Like, you'll
Right.
just have to get something else. I'm not doing breakfast casserole this time.
Hey, thanks a lot for being on with
Yes,
us. It
thank
means a
you.
lot to
That was
us. This will be a big help to people. We'll run this a few times, and we'll be again just trying to get information out there to folks. So we hope everybody will turn out and vote, get registered and vote while there's still time. And if they've got questions, they can give you a call. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot.
Yeah.
Yes,
Anytime.
really great.
Anytime.
Thank you. We won't bother you right around the election. Maybe post-election, we'll have you back and you can
Yeah.
talk about how it went. This is a big one. This presidential is always a big one. So
Yeah, it's a big one.
we pray for safety. We pray for everything to go smooth and no problems. And let's just have a good election as Americans should. And go vote. That's your right as an American. If you're eligible to vote, go vote. So and great people involved. And again, we learned a lot about you and your story. I didn't know some of that. So they keep pulling you back.
They keep reeling me back in, and I try to get away every time.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you so much. We'll let you go. We'll be seeing you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Miss Rebecca.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Well, thank y'all, everybody, for watching, and God bless you. And get out there and vote. Don't hold back.
That's it. Make your vote count.
Yes. All right. God bless all y'all.